Hi, this is Dr. O with a little bit of information that will be useful to you for Management 332 this week. The topic of the new material this week is change leadership and change management, a constant part of most workplaces these days. Last time, we looked at a couple of motivational theories, one considering that self-efficacy is part of what helps us get up and pursue things, and we have a sense that we're capable of doing that which is before us. We also looked at self-determination theory. That is an intrinsic oriented motivational theory, which says that we tend to respond well when we have a sense of competence, we have a certain amount of autonomy, and that there's a relatedness or connections with others in the workplace. Then we moved into the idea that personal transition isn't exactly the same as change. Change can be a systems event, a policy change, a rule change, a procedural change, a change in focus of customers. We might have to move, or there could be all kinds of change. But the fact that something has ended and something has begun doesn't necessarily mean we've walked through it all individually. So the better we appreciate our own walk through change, and the more we appreciate this is probably happening for others who face significant change, we might just be that much more successful as supervisors and managers in the future. This, in fact, is the model that was used to explain that transition process from endings to new beginnings, which sometimes aren't completely clear when the ending happens, and what it means for people to travel through what Bridges calls the neutral zone. Very useful information. I recommend it to you highly. Now this week, this is session 1, we have a few topics. The first is resistance to change, which is a very widely discussed topic because change can be frustrating and difficult to unpack and to navigate at times. Change leadership and change in the heart. We'll just take a quick look at each of those. The question in the first part is resisting change irrational? Well, it certainly can feel that way if you are the one or one of the people helping advocate or trying to implement change, and others are a little bit slow to get on or actually quite resistant to the whole initiative. We might say they are irrational if they're not agreeing with us, but in fact there can be things going on quite commonly within people, like a risk of loss if what I had no longer exists and some new way of doing things. The reward system might be mitigating against your success in getting the change done. There could be just surprise and fear of the unknown. In some cases, there can be peer pressure and this effort to protect their group as a cause of resistance to change. In some departments and in some large organizational groups, there can be just a climate of mistrust. The way things have been managed and led in the past, that makes it hard to push a new change initiative successfully. To push, maybe that's not even the right word, but to engage people in and successfully navigate change. Another thing that could be happening is people could have personal agendas or playing kind of political games as opposed to really trying to advance a cause on behalf of the organization and the customers. The seventh possibility could be that managers or the person or people who are advocating for or implementing this change might just not have the best tact or sense of timing in initiating and pursuing the change. And finally, when some people are very resistant, we could maybe think about ourselves in this case, they seem to not be getting on board with the change. It could be there's some actual fear of failure. Can I do this? And that can be the case at times. And so might have to consider maybe people need some equipping, some information, some skills, some training to successfully navigate the change. There's a reading from a chapter of a book by John Carter, and there's 8 steps that are laid out. This model is very widely taught, and I suspect you'll see it 2 or 3 times, probably through your management training or your management curriculum here at St. Ambrose. And the 8 steps, it starts with a sense of urgency being important if a big system change is going to be led successfully. And there's several steps that are unpacked in the article. I won't walk through them now, but I do read those pages and get an appreciation of what we mean by each of the 8 steps. It ends up with, okay, we've made changes, now will they stick? And there's some interesting things to consider there. There's a short video by the same author talking about heart and mind being needed in order for people to engage in change. And it just surfaces and talks through the idea that we can make a very logical argument for why a certain change needs to happen or why people should get on board with the change, when there could be a possibility that in some cases we actually would do better to get someone's attention and maybe engage the heart a little bit as part of the change management process. It's not a matter of unfair manipulation. It's just being smart about the fact that people need to maybe feel something about engaging in the change as well as understanding it in order for it to be effective. Well, there's a bit more in those videos and the reading. Not a terrible amount of material, but please dive in and be ready to do some discussion around these. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week.